This video is an excerpt from Bolt. Bolt is our brand new kettlebell and dumbbell workout course. We combine the power of the kettlebell with the muscle building capabilities of the dumbbell in a 12-week course. If you want more information, you find it in the first link in the description. Grüezi miteinander, Gregory von Lebe Stark here. I believe the dumbbell is a great brother from the kettlebell. They both mix and match very well. So here are 16 exercises with the dumbbell that you need to know. The dumbbell deadlift works similar like a kettlebell deadlift. We have the same mechanics. There's only one difference. With the dumbbell, I would recommend you to do a so-called Romanian deadlift, which looks like this. We stand shoulder width apart. Now we start hinging. And as soon as I've reached my knees or a little bit below, I feel the tension in my hips, and then I come back up. I don't want to place the kettlebells or the dumbbells, down to the floor because this goes a little bit too deep, and if you have long legs, you will feel this probably in your back. So what we want to do is just hinge, make sure that the dumbbells stay connected to our legs, and come back up and fully extend. With the dumbbell half snatch, my starting position is the floor. If you are very tall, it may be that it is better for you to start in a hang position. So let me demonstrate the half snatch real quick. We bring both dumbbells from the floor, overhead, full extend. The arms, then I rack them in the rack position, and then I bring them back down. What I've also started implementing when the dumbbell gets heavier is a little jerk at the end. I do not think it is a good idea to drop the dumbbells down between your legs because dumbbells are not made for swinging motions. Like I mentioned, if you have long legs, you maybe want to start in a hang position, which costs a little bit more energy and might be a little bit more taxing for your lower back. With the dumbbell Turkish Get Up, we follow the choreography of a get up, and this is the exercise where I would use one dumbbell only. We start overhead. We do the so-called reimagined Turkish Get Up, where I go into a curtsy lunge, touch the floor. Now I search for the floor with my free hands. Now extend the leg that's behind me, sit down, go down on my elbow, use my right leg for resistance so I can really go down on my back very slowly. Then bend the arm, relax for a second, press the weight back up, shifting my body weight to the elbow, then shifting it to the hand. Hips go up, I really have to open them up. Now I rotate my hips a little bit so I can really pull my front leg in. Now I shift my body weight to the back side a little bit so I can really re-engage my legs. As you can see, now I stand in the perfect position to be in that overhead lunge, and this is how I finish the exercise. The dumbbell clean and reverse lunge is a flow because we combine a clean and a reverse lunge into one exercise. So I clean the weight up to the shoulders, and as they come up, I go down into a lunge. I stand back up, then I clean it. One without stepping back, two, and with the second one, I go back down into that reverse lunge, and then I repeat the process. I want to make sure that I envision myself standing on tracks. Watch like this. I am now standing on tracks, not on a tight rope. If I stand on tracks, I have better stability. The dumbbell strict press is fairly easy to do. You grab both dumbbells, clean them in the rack position. I always want to make sure, and this is something that I got from kettlebell training, is I have my elbows close to my body, and now I press them up in a straight fashion, in a straight line. Come back down. Push them up, fully extend the arms. Make sure you don't elevate the shoulders. Keep the arms fully extended, back down. We can also do a circular press or a scaption press if you want to. Works a little bit more muscle, but you have to be a little bit stronger. The dumbbell bent over row is easy. We stand in a hinged deadlift-like position, grabbing both weights, making sure that the dumbbells are close to my legs. As I'm getting ready in that starting position, I'm simply pulling my arms up. Now, one thing that you want to avoid is start flexing or extending your wrist. Your wrist stays neutral. Think about pulling with your elbow. Huge fan of the dumbbell elevated push-ups. I use them also as a finisher because you can actually place the dumbbells in a manner to engage in different ways of push-upping or engaging different muscle groups. If I have the dumbbells like this facing each other, if I place my hands on the lower part of the weight, I have a wide grip and therefore I'm working my chest. I can also say in the middle of the set, I want to switch forward to the weight that's on top. So now my hands are closer. My elbows now don't flare out. They stay close to my body. And now I have more triceps work going on. Of course, if that's too intense, you can always go down on your knees. Do not underestimate knee push-ups. They're still fairly heavy. With a knee push-up, you want to make sure that your hips doesn't stay up in the air, but you push your hips forward, keep tension, and the whole body moves down to the floor, and then of course, back up. We've already covered the lunge, so this is easy to do. We have both dumbbells in a suitcase position. Now think about what I said earlier. We stand on tracks. So as I step back and have the knee touch the floor, I always make sure I stand on tracks and not on a tight rope. This grants me more stability. I also want to make sure that as I'm stepping back, that the distance between my leg that's going back and my leg that's stabilizing in the front is big enough, because if I'm going too narrow, this might be a little tricky for my ankles or my knees. A fabulous exercise where we combine a squat with a press. This is the thruster. So both dumbbells, clean them up. Again, think about the kettlebell idea. Elbows are close to the body. Now I stand a little bit wider than shoulder width apart. I'm squatting, hinging, knees out. Chest stays up because this is kind of a front squat. And as I come up, I bring the dumbbell overhead. It's still technically a bell, right? So knees out, chest up. And you can see me elevate to my toes a little bit, because I want to use all the power that I have from my legs. And as I land overhead, of course, like in the press, I want to make sure that my arms stay extended. A bodybuilding type of exercise, which I really love from my old school bodybuilding days, is the curl and press. So we curl the weight up. We start in the suitcase position, curling the weight up. So I rotate my palms towards me, bring the weight up. Now from this position, we do an ulnar press. So I rotate outside, engage in the so-called scaption press. Boom, going back overhead. Now as I'm coming back, I rotate the dumbbell back so that they face each other. Now my palms are facing me. Now use some tension and take your time to really feel that chest in the biceps. I love this exercise. Fully extending and overhead, coming back down. Be very careful with your shoulder, go slowly, and then take your time. The man maker, we can also call it the beast maker. A couple of exercises combined into one flow. So we start in a suitcase position, then we go down with the dumbbells into a half burpee. Be careful when you're jumping. Place them on shoulder level, then I jump back. Now one push up. Now I'll row with the right side, with the left side. Now I'll place them together. I jump into a front squat stance, knees out, feet out. I have a lot of place or a lot of space now between my hips. Now I clean them up with a little bit of a swinging motion. Now I go down into a thruster as they land up in the clean. Boom, and this finalizes the exercise. Now we can also make it a little bit easier. Down, shoulder width level or shoulder width distance. Now don't jump if you are scared. Just step back, down on the knees, push up, But then make sure you get back on your feet, row, row, place them both together, jump back, clean them up, squat, press, which is a thruster. The beast maker, yeah, we should really call them beast maker. The clean and press is almost similar to the curl and press. We now just use a little bit of momentum and we don't rotate the forearms. So it's clean up, press, rack. And now what I found with heavy weights is my hands work better and it feels a little bit better for my wrist if I bring it down slowly. Then use a little bit of momentum. You can also use this swinging motion. However, with heavier weights, you feel it in your palm as well as in your wrist, which might be an uncomfortable sensation that you're experiencing. At least that happened to me. So I like to really break it down and then use a little bit of momentum in the clean. So this is where I realized again that dumbbells are not made for swinging motions. The lateral lunge is not your typical exercise, and maybe some of you are not gonna really enjoy it, but we move in a different plane of motion, so it makes sense. We have still that shoulder width stance. Now, what do? I take a step sideways, laterally, this means away from me, and then I go into a lateral lunge. So a lateral lunge simply means take a step out, boom, engaging in the squat mechanics, but only on one leg. Now what I like to do is I move my body forward, keeping the weights inside my center of mass, approximately on the middle of my foot. Then I come back up, boom, that's one. Then another step to the left side, really thinking about the hinge. This is important. You don't want to just fully bend your knees. This is not necessary. If you watch it from this side, then you should see that let me show you from this side. As I'm stepping to the sides, watch my hips. Can you see how the hip is driving backwards? This is important. Do not just think about focusing on your knees too much, but really distribute the weights on your strongest muscles, which are located in your hip. I think one of the best ways to use dumbbells is just pressing them off the floor. Now, how do we start? I place them like this. Then I go down on the floor, have my knees bent, my feet touch the floor. Now I grab both weights. Now if they are a little bit heavier, you have to make sure that you use a lot of tension because this might be a little bit tricky for your lower back. So use tension. Up. Now, feet pointed on the floor. Elbows are diagonally placed a little bit away from my shoulder. Now I fully extend. Coming back down. Back up, back down. And I really go as wide as I can because in that position, yes, this costs a little bit more energy, but since I can really rest for a second on my frame when the elbows touch the floor, I can save that energy. And if I go a little bit wider, you'll feel this automatically, then your chest has to do a little bit more work. And if you want to stand up, what I like to do is I keep them close together, bring them down, tense my body, and bring them up and down. Another option would be, but you have to be really careful if you use heavy weights, is to just drop them down to the floor. However, as you can see, they are not as big. If you have bigger hexagons, it's probably a little bit easier, but take care of your shoulder. It is not the best way to drop the weight, especially if you get heavier. Just be careful. The single leg deadlift is an awesome exercise because it forces our body to work unilaterally. So I use one leg, let's just use the right leg. Now what I do is my left leg now becomes the lever as counterweight as I'm moving my body forward, hinging, and now I'm bending the knees. And then I come back up. Hinging. And then bending the knees a little bit. And back up. You want to be careful. This takes a lot of stability. So make sure your legs build up a lot of tension before you work this exercise. If you're scared of it or you're new to the single leg deadlift and you struggle a little bit with your stability, do the exercise weightless. A dumbbell jerk works similar to a kettlebell jerk. The only difference is, and that's what you see in the course in the description, we call this semi-unbroken when you work with dumbbells, because one thing that'll most of the time always give out is your forearm. And if your forearm gives out, you have to put the dumbbells down and relax. There's the major difference to a kettlebell. You can attach a kettlebell to your frame and work with so-called biomechanical efficiency without having to grab the weight and engage your forearm muscles. This is different with a dumbbell. You always have to use your forearm muscles. So make sure to put the dumbbell down if you feel there's a lot of tension in your forearms that have built up. Relax a little. So now let's check out the jerk. Now remember when I told you to keep the elbows close to the body? That's something that I have that is innate from kettlebell training, is I do the same with the dumbbell. Now if the dumbbell gets a little bit heavier, the rear part of the weight, or the front, depending on how you look at it, I drop it a little bit on my shoulder so I can relax the weight a little bit and get ready for the perfect shot as I'm bringing the dumbbell upwards. So dipping, bumping where the weight goes up, and then falling into a second dip where I catch the weight with overhead extension. Now I stand up and racking it. And you see how important it is to keep the elbows connected to your hip, because when we go into the dip and then fully extend the leg, this is where we transfer the energy from the legs into the arms. Now, of course, you can do all these exercises with a single dumbbell only. And with the Turkish Get Up, I want to reiterate this fact. Do not use 2 dumbbells. Only use 1. So here's the next step that I want you to do. You have to like the video, consider subscribing, share it with a friend, and then check out our course, Bolts. We combine the kettlebell with the dumbbell, 12 weeks, with a bonus workout at the end. It is gonna burn. It is gonna be intense, and you're going to love it. Check it out right now.